guys, and welcome to the Paragon Archer panel with me, your Kingdom Paragon Archer. So basically we're going to talk about one of the classes that's probably played the least amount in Amtgard, and in my opinion, one of the most underrated classes. It has a lot of weaknesses, but at the same time, a lot of strengths. And I feel that basically utilizing and understanding how the class works itself is a great way to learn how to not only play the class, but to also play against the class. I'll start off really fast. If anybody has any questions just to start off, that's totally fine. Go for it. Feel free to type out questions and we can move from there. I'm going to do just a quick basic overview of what the class is. I posted the page up a little bit further, and it's also in the pin if you wanted to look from the rules of play about what the V8 Archer actually is. You've got food there. Basically what the Archer is a martial class where you could just go out and swords and regular basic arrows. But something that we also get is something wonderful, which is magical arrows. And all but one of those magical arrows is sorcery. Destruction is the only one that's not currently sorcery. And as those who have played Wizard, or even those who have who have understood like previously trying to fight against certain schools of Amtgard, you'll understand that sorcery is one that is very rarely stopped. So that's one thing that actually makes archers extremely powerful. For all of you guys that are not in the know or not as familiar, archers have 5 specialty arrows. That is pinning, which is yellowhead, the red, which is destruction arrow, poison, which is green, and suppression, which is purple, and gray, which we all know and love as phase arrows. Soup asked a great question here, which is, how do I decide my combination of specialty arrows to take? If you look up above, you'll notice on how arrows are determined for the archer itself. By the time you hit 6th level, if you are getting look the part, you should be carrying 9 arrows if you're going prestige, basically. You gain 1 from your look the part, 2 from 1st level, 2 from 3rd level, 2 from 5th level, 1 at 4th, and 1 at 6th. At any given time, if you're carrying the max number of arrows, you should always have 1 suppression, 1 phase at all times, because that is 4th and 6th, and those are the only ones you get. At look the part 1, 3, and 5, you have a choice. You may take one of the pinning, destruction, or poison arrows. Now, for 1, 3, and 5, you cannot take 2 of the same arrow. I know a lot of people would love to take all pinning, 1 suppression, 1 phase. Unfortunately, that's not something we can do. In my personal experience, my quiver that you will normally see is 4 pinning, 2 poison, 1 destruction, 1 phase, 1 suppression. Because I have found that at level 1, most archers will choose a pinning arrow. This is basically the similar equivalence of a lightning bolt if you're a wizard, which is basically an engulfing, damaging 30-second pin, which is, in how many games we play, is just extremely useful for how much we are moving around. Capture the flag, ring the bell, just running away from things. You don't want that guy that's chasing you? Well, here's a quick fix. So my personal quiver consists of the 4 pinning, poison, 1 destruction, obviously suppression and phase. Now, the reason why I choose more poison than I choose as my secondary is because more often than not, in my personal experience with fields and who I'm facing, the classes, the types, more often than not, I'm facing people without armor. Destruction arrows are great, but from my experience, again, this is just who I'm personally facing more commonly than not. I'm not facing shield people that it's worth breaking. Either I'm facing a warrior with a hardened shield, or I'm facing a healer who swift mends and just moves on. So honestly, what I have discovered to be more useful is to take poison arrows, where you take out that fast casting bard or that fast casting wizard with just a quick hit. It's a wounds kill, dead. I still take one destruction because, there's always that one time that maybe you got that one guy who's running around with, that scout that's running around with a couple points of armor, things like that. Do it. Don't just take out an arrow just because it might not be useful, because I've found that there's always that one situation where, yeah, there's that guy that you did not expect to be there, that suddenly you have the most important thing in the game against him. And obviously suppression and phase, you should just have in your quiver at all times once you've earned them at level 4 and 6, because first off, you just get them. That's your skill grant. There's no reason not to. Just put them in there and have fun taking out druids that like to run around. Does anybody have any questions about the specific choices that I've made, or questions about the types of arrows? Okay, Zero's typing. But yeah, knowing somebody just died. Okay. Knowing which arrows is really important, and we'll go into that very shortly about types of quivers and things like that. My preferred target with a destruction arrow is usually taking out a shield, but that's my own preference. Because of my speed, yeah, no, it's not. Blackjack, unfortunately, it's not usually a 6-point warrior. I'll get into archers versus warriors a little bit later, but generally I don't shoot at them. My personal preferred target with a destruction arrow is basically it would be someone I can get to drop a shield quickly. Usually someone along the lines of like a scout or even a bard, because of the fact that if a scout's carrying a shield, most likely they can't mend it fast enough, or if the bard is most likely chanting something, it's usually something that I can get around regardless, unless it's Song of Deflection, which overall I'm not concerned with because I still have my effects, which again I'm not worried about. So basically, because of my personal speed, I prefer to shoot at shields if I know I can get another arrow off at the person before they can get it mended. Other people, it's your way to play. Not everybody is as fast as I am, because I am a quick shooter. That's my specific way to play, is I'm a speed shooter. Some people will be more likely to be a slow and precision shooters and then take out pieces of armor specifically on individuals that have, again, scouts, assassins. I believe bards can wear the armor. Get that out of there. Just hit those certain spots so you can work with your other teammates that can just finish the job. And again, yes, 6-point warrior has got ancestral. The only thing that's going to work there is a phase arrow. That's only 1 point. It's really not super helpful. Again, we'll go into warriors later. Oh, cool. I've got soda. Let's see. Okay. We started talking about types of arrows. Now I'm going to talk about types of quivers. You've all seen me play. Every single person in this group has seen me play at some point, I think, except Azrina. I have a hip quiver. Hip quivers are, first off, I think personally, this is all personal basis, are superior in LARP archery due to the fact that we have the weighted heads. Weighted heads can basically make it so if you have a back quiver, you can't run as fast. And a lot of times you need to be nimble. You need to be able to get on your feet and go. Having a hip quiver gives you a little bit more control once you get the feel for having something long and obnoxious at your hip. Basically 20 to 34 inches on average. Once you get used to that, it's like having an extra appendage, honestly. But also, when you're specifically an archer, you want to be able to see what arrows you're pulling out and then pull out specific ones for the time. If I'm watching that guy run across the field, I want to make sure I'm pulling out a pinning arrow or a poison arrow. If I'm watching that healer start to cast, I want to make sure I have that suppression arrow ready for him, right for his chest. So those are things you need to make sure that your arrows are visible, which is actually one of the main reasons I'm actually very against having strips to denote your types of arrows. Anything that makes it harder for you to see what kind of arrow you're grabbing and takes up extra time is moments you're not firing and protecting your team. This all leads into the whole concept of what an archer actually is. Most people see an orange sash and see oh, yes. I'm going to answer that question real fast. Are there any tips to avoid hurting myself with a bow? Lol, stupid question, but it always happens even when I have a covering on my arm. It's not a stupid question, and it's actually one of the most common injuries an archer gets besides broken fingers. What the easiest thing is you are locking your elbow. I actually have a drill for that. I have a gathering of people. I was going to talk about this later. I'll just mention it now. Called the Muirin's Fletchlings, because I've chosen not to do 100% the full apprenticeships. I have a bow user group through Facebook, Discord, and Facebook Messenger. I'll talk about that more later. But one of the essays I wrote was actually about how to avoid hurting yourself with the bow. A quick way to teach yourself to not do it is learn the muscle memory of bending your elbow whenever you fire. Hold a marble or even like a Nerf ball in your elbow when you fire every single time until you get used to not being able to stretch your arm. You are locking your elbow every single time, and I can tell you that 50% as a fact. If you stop doing that, I can tell you, you will stop hitting your arm. So I hope, and we can go over that as well at GE, because I know we've mentioned that we're going to sit down and talk to each other at GE about firing. For everybody here, I will be at GE, and I will be happy to go over archery practices and everything at GE as well. Okay, so what we were starting to talk about is what is the archer class? The archer class itself is, like I mentioned, when you see an orange sash take the field, you start to look and you're like, okay, we've got a ranged person and they're going to be obnoxious. It should be more than that. A lot of you, when you see me take the field, you always see me yelling a whole lot of stuff. I know that for a fact because I lose my voice a lot and I know I get yelled at a lot. So something that I have come to understand is, if you've heard me talk about Paragon Archer, you've heard me talk about commander classes. The Bard is a commander class. The Wizard can be. The Druid tends to be. But the Archer is 100% a commander class. What this means to you and to everybody on your team is if you have an Archer that knows how to be a commander on your team, you automatically have a leg up from the other team. Archers, while if you look at warriors, they usually have their shields. They usually do something of kind of like a shield line where they go up when they have like a certain formation, or like bards will go up so they can control where they're going. They usually do like crowd control, things like that. Healers will stay behind, but they'll be focusing on those that need injuries or need injuries fixed and resurrections, things of that nature. Obviously, there's differences to all of them, but these are kind of like the stereotypes, I guess. What an archer can do is they can go to the back row, they can go to the middle, they can go to melee, they can flank around, they can see the entire field all at once. And because of that, that makes them ideal to control where their own team is going. Many times I will sit in the middle, even if I'm not shooting, like maybe I'll have no arrows at the moment, but I'll still be active and I'll be standing in the middle and I will watch the other team. I'll see where the flankers are coming from. I'll see where the lines are coming from. I'll see who on my own team needs help. Like if I see a scout up there all by himself because his shieldman just went down, I call for the rest of my team that just got resurrected, go help on that side, go help on the left, go help on the right. Or even just control where the healer goes. Hey, that person over there is frozen. That person over there is limbed. We need them. We need their arms. Things like that. Having an archer that knows how to read the field and knows how to read both teams is incredibly vital. And it's not all about just using a bow. Using the arrows to also do crowd control at the exact same time is also fantastic, due to the fact that I can see where everything's going, and now I can keep that one guy locked down because either I'm suppressing him or I'm phaseroing him the monk the second he takes the field, or I'm pinning that one barbarian that wants to do fight after death and allowing my team to progress with either the objective or helping their own team move forward. Just making sure, does that make sense to everybody? Because I'm just kind of going and not a lot you're typing. Okay, cool. I assume that means yes, I hope. So yeah, like Zero can tell you, because Zero is a bard and he's an amazing bard, that crowd control is incredibly useful. And being able to read your field, that's something that like everybody needs to know at some point. A lot of you guys also know it as battlefield awareness, which, as you all know, I love to instill into your heads whether or not you want me to. If you fought against me, you know I say it often. Now, what as Rihanna just posted, any tips on how to properly aim arrows? I am going to be doing a video on that very basically what it is because of all the stupid rain we've been having, I haven't been able to really do any of these cool videos I want to do. Aiming arrows it's muscle memory. I know a good number of you who have fought against me have to me literally fire on you without actually looking at you. And that's something that I have developed over time. Muscle memory is really a hell of a drug. Once you gain knowledge of spatial awareness, which is why archers make very good reeves when it comes to distance, judging distance, because we need to know the 20 feet rule at all times. If you aren't aware, 20 foot, anything firing within 20 foot has to be half draw at maximum because of safety issues. So we start to learn spatial awareness very well. Archery is all about depth perception and understanding the field. So once you start to feel that, you're going to start to understand where everybody is at all times. My rule of thumb is if you're on a flat landscape with nothing directly in front of you except your target, you're going to, at 20 feet, you will aim dead square exactly where you want to fire with at least a 75% draw. If the person is 30 feet away, you go an inch up from your original target. 40 feet, another inch. 50 feet, another inch. You'd be very surprised at how accurate that actually is with LARP. Obviously, it's all dependent on your specific bow and your specific arrows. If you have under 28-inch arrows, which I hate and I strongly recommend against, you're going to want to change that a little bit and aim higher. If you have a 25-pound bow versus a 35-pound bow, you are going to want to aim higher rather than If you're going to have a 35-pound bow, you aim slightly a little bit more moderate. Let's see. Now we're talking about different types of bows, different poundage. Now, if you can't tell, also archery is a lot of math. It's a lot of internal math. You have to know how many arrows you have, how much time you have, poundage, wind speed, distance, people movement, all of those things. It's a lot more complicated than it actually feels when you're just kind of shot on the run and you get the hang of it. That's just basically the science behind it, of course. Not what's, a lot of it goes through your head, but once you get the hang of it, it's just, common sense to you after a while, if that makes any sense. I'm going to pause so you guys can ask questions if you have any. That's a great question. Kalinor asked, what kind of draw do you use? What are the best drawbacks of it? And Soup, you're getting banned because you said, oh. What kind of draw do I use? I use a standard draw. In the summer, I will, standard draw is basically hold the bow with the left hand, because I am right-handed, cross the arrow to the left side, which is how most right-handed bows are, hold with 2 to 3 fingers on the string. I use that personally. In the winter, I might up it to 3 to 4 fingers, just due to the fact that I'm losing a lot of feeling in my hands because it's cold. I use that because, first off, I feel, because I do a lot of running and speed drawing, my bow always has about a 20 to 30 degree angle. I do not hold my bow straight up and down like this. I hold it more like this. Nope, not me. Oh my gosh. Like that, if that makes sense. Because of that, that's why I do the crossover to the other side, so the arrow crosses to the left-hand side, and I will be able to hold it on there at all times, even if I have to move it and I can't immediately draw. I draw using this way and not the hunter's draw, which is to flip your hand over so the knuckles are facing the left-hand side, or if you're left-handed, the left-hand knuckles face the right-hand side. That is more for precision shooting and not for moving targets. There are people that prefer that. I know Darian does. He's a person in Anwin, and I know he prefers that. That's completely acceptable. If that's how you learn, you go for it. I have personally found that does not work for me because I like shooting moving targets, and I have more ability to just grab and go if I do the outside draw. Soup asked favorite specialty arrow. Oh my goodness, I don't even know. It honestly depends. When I'm fighting Arden down in CG, it sure is the phase arrow at all time, because he likes to go druid with all sorts of ancestral armor type stuff, and then I laugh at him and shoot him with a phase arrow and he cries a little. But honestly, pinning is tried, tested, and true. It's engulfing. It's a 30-second, and there are so many people that like to wear capes and robes and slough coats and big old pants and cool things that it just catches all day long. Even recently, or last summer basically, Seeger had a spell ball that had like a 2-foot long tail, and I hit the spell ball tail. Guess what that meant? Yeah, he was still engulfed.
Can't do that.
Huh?
Maximum 6 inches.
Yeah, it wasn't. He still had it. And it cracked me up. So yeah. So I guess it depends. Like, if I'm fighting certain classes, it's probably phase. But if it's most, it's probably a pinning because they're just so useful. Rayland asks, how do you keep pressure on the field as an archer? I know it sounds weird, but honestly, your presence. For those of you who know how I like to be a melee fighter. Melee archers will, yes, exactly 0. You gotta spook them. One of my favorite things I love to do is put a pinning arrow on my bowstring, walk up to the front of the line, and then stand there with it knocked and half drawn, pointing at about 6 people. They'll still stop for 30 seconds because I'm going to distract them. And I didn't fire a single shot. That's actually something I did at my very first. We did the capture the flag in the middle of the woods at my first GE. My entire team was dead. I was all by myself on the path. The other team was coming, and I just stood there with one single arrow. Knocked.
FO.
Oh, FOF. Oh, that was funny. Okay. But there's lots of things. Just merely seeing an archer knocked scares so many people about moving. Exactly. Finger death as a shove. Exactly the same thing. You threaten them, they run away. Or they stand there and wait for something to happen and then charge you. Sometimes an unknocked arrow is more dangerous than a knocked arrow. Or a shot arrow, if that makes sense. What Jason, he's sitting right next to me, just told me to tell the short story of is how I did this at FOF last year. FOD. We were doing a keep battle where there was walls and their archers could shoot over the walls. It was kind of twilight out, so it was a little bit darker. And I was out of arrows completely, but we had arrow share on my team. I picked up an arrow and realized it was just a crossbow bolt, which cannot fire from my bow. I stood there all by myself on one side of the field because I had regen, so I wasn't afraid of other archers, and just aimed the crossbow bolt at all the archers on the other side. Every single one of them was distracted by me, and my team was able to get the objective because I had a crossbow bolt knocked, and they thought I had something worse. Yeah, it was really funny. Whenever they would fire at me, if they'd hit, I'd block it with my arm, heal the arm immediately because I had regen, pick up the arrow, fire it back, and then immediately put the crossbow bolt back. Sometimes just the presence of an overconfident archer, because if you can look intimidating as an archer, you're going to intimidate everybody and they're going to wait for you to act. I'm not a great sword, but guess what? I don't get hit too often because people are too afraid to get to me. Let's see. Sniper. No. That's it. Just no. Sniper is the worst thing that's ever happened to the archer class. It's not a thing. Just don't do it. It's stupid. It's a waste of money. It's a waste of time. It's a waste of resources. And it's a waste of every single player on the field's time. Sniper can be used efficiently if they have at least one battery bard on them at all time that is only there just to buff the archer and nothing else, so you're wasting a bard's time. Having at least one archer page to go get all of your arrows after you fire them, and you're probably in a tower, an archer tower, so with hundreds of people. Honestly, it is not a viable version. And the great follow-up question here that Soup just said, what is my better idea for an archetype? Simple. It's the same thing as mage. Do it as evoker, which is whatever arrows you carry out there, you can use. You just have to call them. If you pick up any more arrows, or if you finish up, it ends. To restart, to go get all your arrows back, you have to charge like times 30 or something. If you want to do something that actually makes more sense, use something that currently already works. Use the arrows you're allowed to use, maybe like triple them or something. However many arrows you can carry. Go, have fun. Getting arrows back is a lot harder than it looks. So honestly, balance it out. Charge time's like 30 or something. All the arrows you can carry. Go crazy. Reload would not be part of that at all. You would not have reload whatsoever. The only time you could reload is if basically you're done and you have to restart over. That's just my personal thing because it works for Evoker. Like, you don't have all the extra spells that an Evoker can have. So, go for it. Do you think specialty arrows could hypothetically be introduced to other bow classes? This is actually something Jason and I were talking about the other day, and I know that you and I have talked about this as well, Soup. I personally think that the concept of specialty arrows, while completely exciting to archers, should be similar to how spell balls work with wizards and all the other classes. Wizards have tons of spell balls. I believe they have all but a bands. Other classes have access to one or two of them, except for healer who gets a bands, whatever. If we added more specialty arrows, actually made an archer have more options, similar to how there are multiple different types of spell balls, like a frozen arrow or a fire arrow, things like that. Just spitballing here. Then we could do something similar. I personally still think an assassin should get poison arrow instead of poison weapon if they so choose. Just like we had discussed, it looked apart, and when they get the poison weapon, if they instead choose to do a poison arrow instead, as they want to be a bow assassin instead of maybe a melee assassin, I think that should be totally acceptable. But also the same concept, like a druid, maybe they have, I don't know, like, let's see. I'm trying to think of what other things there are. Like a druid has maybe an entangle arrow, or like a scout has, yeah, exactly, like a pinning arrow on a scout. But they can only use the one, and they only get like one. But archer would still get all of them, and they'd have the multiple uses of each type thing. This is just spitballing. This is just my personal idea. Obviously, it's not something that's currently here. That's personally what I think is specialty arrows currently are only to archer because archer really doesn't have anything of itself. It is technically one of the weaker classes, and, I fully recognize that. We don't have cool spells. We have mend, we have reload, which is really awesome, honestly. It's the only ability in the entire thing that perfect. Yes, suppression arrows for monks, but no bows. Beautiful. Absolutely. I'm so into that. I don't know what they would do with them. Run around holding it, I guess, and go, ah ha ha. But yeah, I think that's something that should be looked into going forward. Yes, exactly. Soup posted exactly what we're talking about with the assassin. That's exactly what I'm thinking as well. Unlimited means you can keep picking it up and using it. It just doesn't die when you throw it to the ground or use it. But you only can carry one. So assassins can carry a whole quiver full of regular arrows. They can also carry one singular poison arrow, which would be fantastic. I'm personally on board with that, and I think that's a great idea. Basically, I just want to see a lot more abilities because people are so unfamiliar with how arrows work as it is right now. And unfortunately, sometimes it's just like seeing that shock on people's face when they're like, wait a second, that's engulfing? It's kind of satisfying, I'm not gonna lie. What other questions do we have? I'm sure we've got more questions. Got lots of you in here. Don't make an arrow that can go through insub and work. Okay, listen. I know you're a Paragon assassin, but Perfect. Okay, we got a few people typing, so I'm just waiting. I do have a few other topics. Okay, reload as an ability is honestly it's really useful because seeing as an archer, the only thing they can honestly they're supposed to do is fire arrows. To not be able to get their arrows back is kind of really shitty, especially when they're firing on bigger teams, bigger areas. Because a lot of groups have projectiles, a lot of groups have, other classes can shoot arrows. There's spell balls and things like that. But unless you're running only those with zero other like abilities or zero other spells or anything like that, like you have other things to back you up. If you run out of arrows as an archer and you don't have reload, you're kind of null. You can't heal. You can't really do. You can use one mend, but you can't really do much else because people, for the most part, don't use sharrows. So I do feel that reload, while it is really powerful, it is also very useful, and it also can be used as a strategic thing too. This is something that I was taught early on, is using reload as strategic, kind of like how like I know wizards sometimes, or even assassins, will do the whole swift teleport, swift blink, things like that, or just get out of there by doing those, like I step in the shadows, things like that. You can use reload in those proper ways as well if you can time it correctly and utilize it properly. What are your thoughts on styles of archery for the other classes that can use a bow? Field presence, positioning, targets. That is, I could talk about that literally for hours. That is a great thing. Basically what it is okay. I started to talk about this earlier, but now I can go back into it. Wholly relates to there are 3 generally accepted types of bows in LARPing: the Mongolian horsebow, the longbow, and the recurve. I wrote a full essay about this. I can link you guys to that after this if you'd like to read it. The longbow is traditionally used for ranged shooting and slower shots. It's not really useful for melee shooting because its size and because usually it doesn't shoot as powerfully unless you're using a full English U longbow, which you're shooting 150 pounds. Don't do that. You'll get probably banned and you'll probably kill somebody and then get arrested. And nobody wants to deal with this.
But there's foam on the arrows.
No. There's the recurve, which is basically one of the more common ones you'll see. The recurve is basically medium grounds. It's the one that most people have. It's the teardown. It's got the little knobs on it. It's faster than a longbow, but it's still bigger. It's really good as an all-around bow. Melee, ranged, middle ground. And the Mongolian horsebow, which that's my preferred. It's fast, it's small, it's light, and it punches arrows out real quick. Very good for melee shooting, not so good for ranged. Now, I bring these up specifically for the purpose of types of classes. Now, because of the way other classes stereotypically play, obviously every single one of you plays differently. Every single person plays differently in their classes. We have a bunch of paragons in this group. That's honestly why we become paragons, is because we play differently. What I will say is all stereotypes. Stereotypically, the scout will be more of a skirmisher. They will go mid they'll go melee, but they'll also go ranged at times. Most likely, the scout is going to end up using a recurve or longbow, specifically for the purpose that they can do something further away, and then just work their way forward while they've distracted people by not being super noticeable by doing something ranged, and then coming into the middle of the fray. One of the best examples is Ben Claudio. He uses a longbow, and he plays extreme ranged, but he also carries a crossbow. We'll talk about crossbows later. So he can do basically both, but he does like to do more ranged. You'll also see, assassins will be similar in the same types of shooting, where they'll do basically outside of the range, so they'll be more recurve to longbow. They'll be ranged, blink, neum into the area, and then kill everybody with their daggers and swords and throwaways. A lot of times assassins will use throwaways for their melee shooting and arrows for the range shooting. Druids, I have seen, while druids can use a bow, I've seen very, very, very few do so. Of course, I also see very, very few druids. The only druid I've ever actually seen is down in CG that used a bow, and that is Richie. And I believe he uses a longbow, but he also goes ranged. He stands behind the lines. I believe he basically hands out stuff and then just shoots from the back. Now, these are all perfect ways to use it because there's no wrong way to use the bow unless you're hitting people over the head with it. Don't do that. Basically, what that means is these are how you're determining your field presence. With an archer, it depends on how you specifically play. I play mostly melee and mid. A lot of times I'll hide behind a paladin or warrior because they got the shield. And if I have a... Yeah, you can do that, Druid. Or Zero. You can absolutely do that. I don't recommend it because bows can break real easy. But yes, you can do that.
What?
But basically, something to consider is basically, which this is going to move straight into the next one with what Rayland asked, but I'll finish up with what Soup asked first. You're going to basically also consider what kind of target. Targets. Most likely, if you are an archer, something you'll hear pretty like if you're fighting with an archer, commonly you'll say, "Hey, we need that guy gone. Get rid of that guy." Or get rid of that person that's coming up now. Take him out. What I like to do is, if I'm up on a line with people, I will specifically ask the melee fighters, who do you want gone right now? And that's who I focus on. At Fury last year during one of the big battles, I remember basically just flat out focusing on Tamahome because we did not need an anti-paladin flanking us and yuming all the way around and just killing everybody. So really, I focused on him alone. Pissed him off to no end, but strategically, it was the correct thing to do. You want to focus on what you are going to be most useful for. If you are a basic non-magical archer or you don't have any magic arrows, don't even look at warriors. Just don't bother. There's nothing to look at there. You can't do anything if they're wearing 6 points of armor. Yeah, he was so strong. I fixed it. Because I understood that was my primary target. I didn't get to fight anybody else, but I only fought really Tamahome because I knew if I didn't kill him, our team would die. Let's see. Targets. Something that I specifically always like to do is focus specifically on casters that rely on range. A lot of times, because me and Rayland are against each other, I will flat out aim just for Rayland because He's fast. I'm also fast. A lot of times I can basically get something off in time. He can also get off things in time, but it's basically a good thing to just work on is figuring out what you specifically deem a priority. A lot of people like to joke with me, oh, well, you never shoot me. Oh, you never hit me. And it's not a matter of I can't hit you. It's a matter of I don't bother because you're not currently a priority to me.
You suck.
No, that's not why. Like if I see somebody just running around and I completely ignore them, I don't feel that my attacking them is worth the time it takes. I'm more useful against somebody like a bard or a bard, a healer, or a mage who is more likely going to be casting things from ranged. Ranged is usually good to go against ranged. If you can get those pocket shots, like on warriors, on assassins, on scouts, hell yeah, do it. But your primary targets should be your priorities. You should look at the entire team before the game even starts and figure out who you are going to be specifically aiming for that entire time. Like when I play and I see blackjack on the other team and I know it's like a grab an item game or something, I know flat out he's going to be the one running for it because he's my speedy page and he likes to just zoom over. So I know that I'm going to be focusing on him because he's faster than a lot of people on my team, if not everybody on my team. Things like that. So you want to basically prioritize your targets and figure out ahead of time what you're going to be doing. From there, you'll be able to figure out positioning because it depends on what your team is doing or what game you're playing. Okay, now what Raylan said. When playing other classes, what role do you play when matched up with them? Example, do you take more of a support role and keep back when with a warrior? Do you run up side by side with a wizard with you? How do you adapt during games? Now, Rayland, I know you know for a fact how you and I do this. When I'm lucky enough to be paired up with Rayland, such as at Bot D, when we were able to just destroy an entire rush, we march side by side. He takes things, I take things. We fill in the gaps where each other needs. When I am privileged enough to fight with Elijah or Maelstrom, who is a warrior, I will stand behind him. Same with when I fight with Mike Gross. I can't think of his name.
Colin Archibald.
Yeah, Colin Archibald. He's a paladin up in the Nine Blades. I love playing with him because he's a big, big, beefy guy who's got a big, big, beefy shield, who's got a lot of armor on. And if a wizard is trying to target me, I just duck behind him and they can't see me. That is delightful. Pisses a lot of people off, and I love it. It also means I can mend his stuff right behind him as well. Now, something that I like to do is, especially if I have a shieldman with me, is I make sure that I know their name and they know what I'm going to do, because I have a signature move. Everybody should gain a signature move. One of mine is shooting right next to your ear. I've heard it 1,000 times. Oh my God, I think I felt the fletching on my ear and I heard just zoom. I can't believe I didn't get hit in the head. Basically what I do is if I'm walking right behind you, say I'm walking behind Montagor right here and he's got his big old tower shield going on, I will say Montagor left side or left shoulder. That means I'm about to shoot over his left shoulder. Do not raise his sword up. Do not raise his shield up. Do not move his head to the left. Communication is very important when you're playing these kind of games, especially with things as dangerous as arrows. Usually I'll be able to take out what was directly ahead of him and we can keep marching forward. Or at least I'll incapacitate it and he can finish it off. It's a lot of fun. Freaks people out when it happens the first time, but if you ask Paulo, or formerly Devantis, They absolutely are obsessed with it and think it's hilarious. It's a little scary, but I try to give you guys warning before I do it. Don't worry. But yeah, team up with what you've got. Another fun one to team up with is a bard. Personally, I really like playing with a crowd control bard. Like me and Peaches will go out side by side. And he'll push him 20 feet away, and then I'll shoot him. So he gets him out of the way. He puts him at range, and then I'll finish him off when they're out there. It's a lot of fun. And if you can get a quick shooting bard along quick shooting archer that's got good accuracy, you're gonna be a pretty beast mode team. It's pretty sick and a lot of fun. Those are my three that I really like playing with: is warrior, wizard, and bard. Those I feel you team up best with. Now let's see. What do you think is an archer's counter? It's a warrior, flat out. A lot of people think it's monk because of the missile blocking. Honestly, just get better at shooting. Learn how the monks play. Learn to bounce your shots into their ankles. Pisses them off a lot. A lot. It's really funny. Learn to bounce your shots into ankles. Really, really funny. But a warrior is a flat-out archer counter. It's actually a hard counter. Between the fact that they can use Shake It Off and get rid of the pinning, they have Ancestral Armor and Harden, which gets rid of destruction arrows. They have Ancestral Armor and Armor, so it gets rid of poison. 6 points, which negates the armor breaking of arrows. Phase Arrow just does 1 point. Goes through Ancestral, but doesn't really do much else. And Suppression, I mean, you can suppress. If you can manage to suppress, pin, and get off like a whole bunch of arrows all at once, you can take out a warrior for at least 10 seconds. Honestly, they are not worth the arrows. Let someone else deal with them. Don't waste your time. Let a mage deal with a warrior. Like, just don't bother. I flat out will tell every single person with an orange sash, just don't bother. You're wasting your arrows. There's no point. What's something you wish you were told when you first started arching? I don't know. Don't be afraid to shoot people. When I start to teach a lot of people how to shoot, or I let them play with my bow the first time and I start to give them instruction on how to shoot, very often they'll pull 50 to 25% of their draw, like half draw. It's very timid. To be a very dangerous archer, you need to be actually aggressive. You have to be able to give that intimidation, give that aggression on the field. You guys know me just through Amtgard, and you know that I'm a pretty aggressive, arrogant person. But realistically, like in real life, I'm actually real shy, real timid, and not really out there. So when I first started, I shot a person, and the person's like, "Oh God," and I'm like, "Oh no!" Thought I heard him. Or like if you shoot the guy in the nuts the first time, valid target, but it still sucks. It makes you feel real bad. You know, you accidentally do a neck shot or something. Like, make sure they're okay, but get over it real fast. Garb confidence is 100% a thing. Absolutely. You guys know that I'm a pirate and I dress in swag stuff. But legitimately, the way that my belt is on my hips, the way that I weight everything down, I do swagger because of the way everything is weighted. And you know what? That 100% makes me more confident. I feel damn good when I'm in good garb. Garb is 100% confidence booster. But basically, what's something I wish I was told when I first started arching? It's okay to be aggressive. You don't need to be a background, do volleys on occasion and shoot the occasional pink arrow and just be. It's the whole concept of like the delicate blossom arrow. Like, don't be afraid to get aggressive. Like, when, like what we were talking about earlier, what Raylan had, what was the specific question? Like, how do I command my presence on the field, or something like that? How do I keep pressure on the field? Nobody's going to be afraid of a person that's, firing quarter draws and staying behind everybody, standing there looking scared. You got to look aggressive. You got to be ready to go there, and you got to look like you're in charge of the entire field and go out there and take control. Those are great questions. I know a few people in here. I know Kalinor, you're just starting to arch. A few others. Do you guys have any questions? Ezriana? I just want to make sure everybody's getting heard. Don't be afraid to ask questions. I'm here for you guys. How long did it take me to get my Paragon? I joined the game in April of 2017, and I got it on December 8th, 2019, so about a year and a half. So it is definitely possible to just go through, learn the class, and be amazing. I am also a cross gamer, absolutely, but I know something that was brought up specifically was my ability, whether or not I'm a Paragon. It's my knowledge of the class, my willingness to teach, and my willingness to get out there and show everybody why I love this class so much. Do you have any recommendations in arrow brand or anything like that? Absolutely. First off, for all of you that know my heads, I use, if I purchase heads, I use Gorg the Blacksmith heads. I love them very much. They're wonderful. They last forever. They're soft, and they're bright colors. They're easy to recognize. They're wonderful. Shafts, though, I can actually link that to you guys. I have a specific shaft that I discovered. They're slightly more expensive. They're not like the $4 ones that are on like at Walmart. They're not those. They're not the carbon fiber ones. Let me look it up real fast. I have the link right here. I can actually post it. I can tell you right now that these are absolutely incredible. I've had these shafts for 2 years now. I think I've had one break. One second, I'm trying to find the link. I apologize. I think I've had one single one shatter that wasn't slammed into a car door. And that's it. Out of all the time I've been doing it so far. Oh, is that the ones I posted? Thank you very much. Those are the ones I posted in my group. If you look at them, actually, if you look at the close-ups, you'll notice that they have ribbing on them. They're basically carbon fiber wrapped with strapping tape, like fiberglass arrows. And because of the way the strapping tape is wrapped, they are near impossible to shatter. I've seen them jumped on by full plate armor guys. I've seen them everything like that. And they're amazing. Soup. Thoughts on Warlord Sports speed arrows? Now, I'm not going to... I personally use Gorg the Blacksmith arrows. I'm not going to personally talk about any other team's arrows. I will say, I'm not going to get into the fight that I was getting into, basically. I believe that arrows should have a larger head and open cell foam. Those arrows are perfect. They're good. I'm not gonna sit there and tell people they're wrong, because they are perfectly fine according to the rules of play. And that's totally, it's your prerogative, whatever you choose to do. I prefer open cell. If you've ever been hit by my arrows, they specifically say, a lot of people will say, wow, that was really soft. It didn't hurt. I use open cell foam. I personally believe all arrows should have open self-foam at the head because I've dealt with too many injuries, such as torn corneas and face injuries, because they didn't have that. That's all I'm going to say on that subject because I don't want to start arguments here. We can always discuss that in private if you'd like to. Let's see. Do other people have questions? If not, I'm going to talk about other stuff. Let's see. One thing that I'm going to be doing is, actually, you know what? Now I think I'm going to pitch my thing. So currently I run a bow user group called Muirin's Fletchlings. And this is not just our kingdom in Goldenvale. This is Freeholds. I've got a couple of people in Nine Blades and in Crystal Groves. I believe I also have somebody from out of Amtgard as well. Basically what I do is I recommend drills, I recommend tasks, and I write basically essays similar to what we're discussing today on different individual skills and things I want you to learn. I chose not to do the typical apprentice program due to the fact that archery is more than archery. Bow using is one of the most dangerous things in any Boffer LARP sports, and it can be not having someone show you the right way. You can learn very dangerous things. You can just keep hurting yourself, such as the whole locking your elbow and getting bruises. It can chase you off of it. It can get you bad gear and just get you going the wrong direction. I'm here to help everybody do that, and I do lots of different things. As I mentioned about the videos, raining forever, I'm going to be doing videos about how to make arrows and even how to do my basic drills, such as target shooting, moving target shooting, which is very important, distance, like judging distance, and just a couple muscle memory drills, such as what you're drawing with and things like that. If you are interested, feel free to message me about it, say something in chat and I can add you. I know a bunch of the people in this chat currently are in that group as well. It is going to be more active soon. But that is not just for anybody that's apprenticed. We have paragons, we even have knights and whatnot in the group. So if you feel that there are questions that you haven't gotten answered today, you can feel free to keep asking them there because that's what that group is for. Okay, what other questions we got? Yeah, we have crossbow users too. I do have my crossbow. I still have to make crossbow bolts so I can start playing with it. Keep it at my hip and start playing with it. Fun fact, archers can also use crossbows with specialty arrows. It's actually kind of fascinating. I know somebody that uses a regular bow and keeps a crossbow at their hip with a single pinning arrow attached. Huh? I think so. I'm not sure. That's specifically for the purpose that if something's happening, they can fire that and get away. Having methods of escape are really useful. Crossbows are very interesting because they're small bolts. Luckily, they are becoming more and more prevalent, especially with like Marcus making them long distance, which means that they're not as difficult to get your arrows back, things like that, and they're more versatile. So many classes can use them. Again, every class that can use a bow can also use a crossbow, which is kind of exciting when you think about it. Let's see. What other questions we got? I just want to make sure I'm answering everything for you guys because I could talk all day. I've done that to so many of you already. I know that. We could talk about like battlefield awareness all day. We could talk about everything. I'm gonna talk while you guys are typing. Something that I do recommend is, yeah, exactly. Using a crossbow as an assassin is excellent, especially for like the quick things. Ooh. We talked a little bit about this, but what new specialty arrows would you add to the game if you could? So, coming from a game that didn't have magic arrows, I was completely fascinated by these, and I love them. Now that I've been playing, and I got used to them, and I'm like, wow, what else could they possibly change? Stop that. Basically, I was like, wow, what else could possibly change? And then I started leveling Wizard recently, and I discovered things subdual, like ice balls, things like that. Like I've heard about V7, V6, V5, I don't know, V whatever, where there were fire arrows where they were able to get things out of frozen and stuff like that. I think those are fascinating, and I think it would be something to look at, like basically aligning magic balls and arrows together, personally. Especially if we're looking at going into healing arrows was always a joke because it was the concept that the arrow still does damage, but then you get healed at the same time, which I always thought was kind of silly. But something I always thought about was the whole concept that, like, if we can match up the spell balls and match up the arrows, that would leave more open to having the other bow users be able to take a single specialty arrow or something like that, while the archer is a little bit more buffed, which it definitely needs. Having the matchup to spell balls would not only match up the coloring, but it would also bring in the whole concept of, basically it would be easier to understand, like going from, if you're hit by a fireball and then you're hit by a destruction arrow, they're similar, but they're not the same thing. But they're both red. So then a lot of times you gotta stop in the middle of the field and say, okay, wait, what's this one do? What's this one do? Does that not do the same thing? You know, things like that. I think if we aligned them more to the spell balls, I think things could be kind of interesting. We could just try to figure that out from there. That's fantastic. I want love arrows. Highness, I'd love some love arrows, please. Please. Please give me love arrows. Soren, please give me love arrows. Oh my god, ow, that hurt. Oh, sorry, I just worked out and he just hit me in the side. Oh my god, that hurts.
I hit her with a love arrow.
No, that's not a love arrow, that's your fist. Yeah, that sounds hilarious, and I love it. Pink arrows. That's what I would do. I'm making pink arrows. Anyways, but yeah, that's personally how I would do it. Is I don't want to like reinvent the wheel here. We already have spell balls that do different things. We have spell balls that have colors and things like that. I think if we aligned the archer's arrows to spell balls, I think we could it would work. But again, that's just me. We got a little bit more time left. Cupid's, why did you lose it? Soup, what? But yeah. No. Do you want to go feed them?
No.
Please?
I don't know.
It's in the closet.
Okay. Do I go? Same for them?
Thank you. Sorry. We had to feed the cats. I'm sorry. But yeah, so yeah, I got an awesome bow when I was up in Nine Blades. I got a, which was the engulfing bow. No matter what arrow I shot, it was engulfing. So even if it was a regular arrow, if it hit garb, it still did damage. It's pretty amazing. Probably one of my favorite things. I love that bow. And Cash was really jealous. But yeah. So we're nearing the end of our panel. and we had a lot of really great questions. I really hope you guys feel a little bit more comfortable about the archer class in general, because like I said, the archer class is played pretty rarely, like throughout the entire game, not just our kingdom, not just the lower kingdoms, like CG, and I don't mean lower like status, I mean lower as in distance. But archer as a class is actually really rarely played, especially if you look in the orc stuff like that. And therefore a lot of people, it's both a positive and a negative. The negatives obviously are people don't play it, which kind of sucks because it's a really fun class to do. And also, when you're learning to play it, you don't have a lot of people teaching you to do it, which having the education on the proper ways to use it and the proper ways to play it is sometimes really, really important. Oh, absolutely. Like, for anybody that's never actually fired a bow in a battle game, let me tell you something. The first time, like when you walk out there, you're like, oh, this is gonna be real hard. All of a sudden, you fire a bow and you hit somebody and they die and they walk away, and you're just like, oh, that was cool. And then you start to get better at it, and then people start to yell out every single time you're nearby. There's just something. And also, one of my favorite nicknames for what people call me on the field is "fu Archer." It's one of my favorite things, not gonna lie. When they swear at you, then you know you're doing a great job. Um, but it's just something really satisfying about it when they just give you that dirty look. Oh, it's just delightful. But the positives to playing Archer also are the fact that people don't know how to play against you. There is such a rare situation where things are immune to sorcery, which means everybody is susceptible to you. Like, just everybody can be affected by you at some point. And like I said, the whole positives of the fact that you don't have all the spells and you're not relying on running up to the front and just taking care of everything. You are the person that controls the entire field. Like, when you take the field is yours. You're in charge. That is your field. Do what you will with it. Best enchantment for Archer, hands down, regen. The end. Nothing else. Regen. Do not, if you are an Archer, do not ever, ever, ever let them give you, what is it? Is it lycanthropy? No, Troll's blood. Don't let them give you Troll's blood. Ever. Just don't do it. Regen for an Archer is so unbelievably good, especially if you have great battlefield awareness. Because I will answer that question because it's a really good answer. What it is regen is amazing because it's swift heals. And that's fantastic because, like I told you during the thing I mentioned with the FOD battle, I just sat there and I'll block the arrows with my arm. Or, that one barbarian that runs by with Fight After Death, all they do is swing at your arm because they're like, oh, you're an armed archer. You can't do anything anymore. You just swift heal it, you're done. Or you mend if they break your bow. The end. Now, Troll's Blood. Now, the issue with Troll's Blood is every single time it's ever been cast on me, what it does is it gives you the same thing. However, when you die, you're frozen. The problem with that is that you're frozen. So you can be shattered, you can be surrounded by the enemies, and then they can just kill you again. What am I looking at? Oh, thank you. Yes. When you're frozen as an archer, you have no way to get out of it. You have no, basically it's meant for warriors who can do shake it off. That's what it's meant for. Giving it to an archer is literally just negating the archer. Because when they're frozen, they're susceptible to how many people that can shatter or release, things like that. And then they're just killed 3 times in a row. If you die by Troll's Blood, you're most likely going to die all. It's completely worthless. Regen, however, you just got regen, you do swift heal, run. Yep, exactly. Wizards can shatter frozen people. Every single time I've had Troll's Blood, I basically died all 3 times in a row. Like, I was either released, I was shattered, or they just waited next to me and then killed me again, and I just went back into frozen. So instead of basically letting the person actually die and come back in like 30 seconds, you're pretty much incapacitating them for 100, like a minute and 30 seconds, and then just using up their enchantment as well. Troll's Blood should be for warriors, not for archers ever, because it's just not helpful. Give them regen. It's literally my favorite thing that's ever been given to me. I love staring at a person that just shot my arm, staring at them, heal, and then shoot them again. It's pretty much my favorite thing. Huh? Keep forcing her to eat it. If she doesn't, then put it back. Sorry, it's my cat. But yeah, that's one of my favorite things is get regen. I've never enjoyed having enchantment more than that when I take the field. I beg for it whenever possible because it's just stupidly fun. But it looks like we're at the end. Feel free. I am always on Facebook. You guys know that I'm always here on Discord, and I'm always just available in general. Hell, my email is muirinarcher@gmail.com. If you want my phone number, message me. I don't care. Come to my house, pet my cats, talk to me. If you guys want to sit there and talk more about archery or bow using or any part of it whatsoever, theories, ideas, concepts, feel free to reach out to me. I am very approachable, I think, and I'm always here for you guys. I'm here to teach, and I'm here to help everybody learn because I love being an archer, no matter what class it is. Yes, you can come to my house and pet my cats. They love you. But I'm here for you guys. I will. They're eating food right now. I absolutely will. But for real, guys, feel free to approach me at any point. Discord, Facebook, phone, I don't care. Come up to me at GE. Come up to me at all the events if you see me. Like, say, hey, do you want to teach me how to use a bow? Do you want to tell me my form is good? Do you want to tell me how I can get better? I will absolutely do that anytime you want, and I'm here for you guys. Again, if you're interested in joining the Muirin's Fletchlings group, just post or message me directly, and I can add you in. Thank you so much for all of you guys coming. The questions were really great, and I'm really glad all of you made it. So thank you guys so much for coming out tonight. I really appreciate it. Good night.